I am joined, as ever, by Anne Lord Jackson with a lady who has the laugh that we know you love because you tell us.
Oh, hello, lovely. It's lovely to be here.
If you're watching the video, I've got a new T-shirt on, which is super exciting because Pure Radio, which is what this is all about. I'm also the editor on Pure Media, the magazine, which you write in. Anne's one of our great writers, and I've got the first T-shirt, which is I'm so excited.
It is so exciting. You know, I was more distracted because you've had your haircut. I knew something was different. And I was thinking, is it because he's had his haircut? It's like, no, because he has a brand new colored t-shirt on. So,
Some things stand out, which gives me a topic for today. Yeah, sensory healthy, happy marriages. I'll come on to that in a minute. You've just inspired
oh,
me for something. But yeah, no, I wanted something that had the word editor on it because I never thought I'd be the editor of a magazine. And I'm just chuffed that we've got a magazine that people love. And I thought, well, why hide it? It's good.
yeah, yeah. It was lovely. I was at this conference first thing this morning about our local radio station, funnily enough, and talking about advertising and this, that, and the other. And it was just really nice to be there and think, I've got something for people, and just to be able to sit there and know that there's no pride about it all, but just a lovely sense of satisfaction. That's what it is, sense of satisfaction. Like you're a satisfaction that you're an editor, and it's lovely to be able to say that you are and that you've achieved this. And I'm there sitting there in this lovely, they gave us coffee and pastries, and it was all very lovely. And it was just really nice to be there thinking, yeah, beautiful sense of satisfaction. But anyway, yes, we digress. Carry on.
But there's nothing wrong with being chuffed with what you've achieved. It is a good, righteous thing. It is something I've found American folk I know are much better at speaking very happily and naturally about stuff they're good at. Whereas a Britisher, well, I'm not too bad, and like an amazing footballer or something is like you're amazing, but we don't do that, especially Britishness. It's kind of stifles joy sometimes, I think.
Yeah, yeah, it does. And I have a new word that is slowly coming into my language about being excited. So when I first met my American friends, they were also excited about this, and I'm excited about that. And I'm thinking, really? Do you have to be excited? I mean, it's just like it's fine, it's great. But but now I feel myself also coming because it's really positive. The language that you use, the words that you use, the sounds that you're hearing brings to your brain, they do connect with emotions, they connect with so many things, and it is good when we use positive, as long as it's truthful, but positive language that's affirming, and yes, all good.
If you've broken your leg, you need to go and see a doctor, and they need to put a cast on you and you need an X-ray. Positive thinking is not going to fix your broken bone. However, positive thinking will affect your mood and how you then respond to the fact you've got a broken leg. Not at the moment of it breaking, but later on. And if you're really negative and down and fed up, well, it's gonna then impart that negativity into your body. We're not talking about weird nonsense here, but
Mm.
actually a positive mental outlook is so, it changes your posture. It changes how you approach the world. It changes how you talk. It changes how you look, how you smile, how you listen, how you hear, how you drive. It affects everything.
Yeah.
Which is why being positive is important, which is why I like these conversations. Because if you're ground down because, I don't know, your wife is struggling with dropping things and no one's got an answer, and it might be a sensory healing, and you fix that thing that lets her drop everything because it's not a physical problem. She's not pregnant, as the old silly thing goes. Actually, it's a sensory thing. And all of a sudden, you've switched from negative to positive, and all of a sudden, joy starts to cascade.
Absolutely. And we were thinking this morning about what are the feelings? I think what is it about my business that I want to be able to communicate? I've already got within, offering hope and freedom and sensory health for people because it's that essence of hope that is so powerful and freedom. And I thought, well, there are so many more adjectives that I'd like to put into it. And as well that the sense of we're all I was trying to work out normality. What is it about? Like, I want everybody to consider ourselves as the new normal. Like, we are all different. We're all not normal, or we all are new normal. I was just trying to play around with the new normal. I didn't really get very far, but it was a sense of I really want what the service that I have is for everybody, but to try and find just to try and help people celebrate who they are, but still help when life is difficult. It's a really fine balance. It's a hard balance. I want to be totally inclusive of anybody and everybody. But will people get it? Do people want that? Or do people want to stay in their diagnoses? Do people want to stay in their boxes? Are people more comfortable in their boxes. I don't know, but I just want us. I just want folks to be able to respect and honor people regardless of any label, any sense of identity that we have. It's like yeah. Yeah.
I remember I was chatting with a friend of mine who works with the deaf community, and she does sign language. She does interpreting. That's a lot of what she does. But she was talking about how the deaf community, it's like there's nothing wrong with us. We don't hear, but that's not like we're weird or wrong, or this is who we are. So their sense of identity is much more rooted in the fact they can't hear like we do, but they wouldn't see it as a hearing person might, that well, you've got a disability because you can't hear. They would see it very much as if, well, this is who I am, and
Mm,
that's the starting place. And I guess that very thing is a really, that's that satisfying thing again. That's that piece, because actually, if you accept who you are rather than, well, I should be like that. Once you got the word should, now you're into guilt, and guilt just starts to cripple you.
yeah. 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 And it's like taking captive. We have that Bible verse and that we absolutely love. Take captive every thought that sets itself against, what God thinks of who you are, just how precious you are in the way that you are, and just take captive things that are spoken into you, spoken against you. If you open the door just a chink, it can really bring you down in your mental health. And when you start thinking what others might be thinking about you, which they may or may not be, but also you need to be thinking just how precious you are and how valuable you are, regardless of what anybody else thinks. It's because God says you are. And we need to know how precious and how treasured each and every single one of us are, regardless of what we contribute or otherwise.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's one of my favorite bits of scripture about the fact take the thoughts captive. With all the stuff around Charlie Cook's assassination in the States, there's a lot of very, very conflicting, contrasting, very, very strong opinions and feelings everywhere. But the thing is, you need to take captive what you're reading, because one, social media is going to spin what you get to see. So you're not getting to see everything anyway. But actually, if you're not careful, it starts to overwhelm you, and then you start going down a particular track. And well, I've seen this, and I think that, and all of a sudden, we're now at war with each other. Whereas actually, let's just mourn that someone's died. That's a big enough problem. We don't need to create more stress to try and focus on. Let's just mourn the fact that somebody was killed completely. Wasn't doing anything. He was innocent in that context. Wasn't doing anything bad. He was just standing there, and if we're not careful, we end up bringing all this other stuff into our life. We don't take the thoughts captive, and we skip past the important stuff, and we try and deal with stuff that maybe isn't quite so important, and actually missing the very, very real critical things of how do we actually get on with each other in humanity and society. And
Mm.
that stress becomes negative thoughts. If we don't take it captive, we're spinning off into all sorts of difficulties that we then have to process later on.
Mm. And I think it's a good thing that it's interesting with one of my sons heading off to university, and there'll be many of you who are who are listening who also have that, and you're exposed at university to differences that you haven't been in your home environment.
Hmm.
And we really need to prepare our children and young people for heading into an environment where there are loads and loads of different ways of being. Even the bedtimes and the food that people
Yeah,
eat.
yeah.
Obviously, we know the way they dress and all the rest of it. It's how have we trained the next generation to be so accepting and loving, and acknowledge that there are lifestyles out there that you might not agree with, but that you can still treat people as humans because we are valuable. Each and every single person matters, and it's we need to be exposed to differences because we have that freedom to be who we want to be. Not everything's beneficial, but it's yeah. How can we train up the next generation to honor rather than taking a gun to someone and shooting someone because we don't agree with them or don't like them?
I remember chatting to one of our newest presenters, Gareth. He's a professor at Morelands Bible College, and he was talking about difference of opinions. Because
Right.
obviously, you've got people coming to Morelands Bible College, they're coming to do theology, and there's this range of, in the UK, denominations: Anglican, Baptist, Pentecostal, whatever your Christian church experience, or perhaps how you like to worship God. All of a sudden, they're in this new pot. and everyone's got differing opinions. And he said, what's fascinating is people who come in with this one thing, it's almost like they're willing to stake everything on this one point, and then they meet someone of the opposite sex and they think, I quite like that person, but they don't believe what I believe. And it forces them to reassess what's most important and realize perhaps that most important thing isn't quite as most important as it was. Now there's somebody else on the scene that I quite like to spend some time with. I thought that was quite fun.
That is great. I just think, oh, we need a little bit more of that, I think, in this world. Like, how can we? What are the tools that we can use to help other people consider things differently? And if it's someone of the opposite sex, hurrah!
Absolutely. Anyway, right. I had a thought because you were wondering what was different about me when you first saw me today. Now, if you generally are watching the videos, I usually wear, and Dr. Richard Scott says, do you go to bed in that t-shirt, Andy? It's all I ever see you in. Well, I don't go to bed in the t-shirt, but normally I've got a black t-shirt that says Pure 24/7 Radio on it. However, because we've got brand new t-shirts that literally arrived before we jumped onto this conversation, I grabbed one and shoved it on for this Zoom. Because I like it. I like wearing new t-shirts. I like fun t-shirts. Anyway, it got me thinking, because you said, what's different? Is it something with your hair or whatever?
Haircut.
Hey?
You had a haircut.
I had a haircut a few days ago, which was interesting because you didn't notice the t-shirt, because you noticed the normal black t-shirt with white writing. Now it's gold with white t-shirt, which is quite a difference. Black to white, about as opposite as you can get. But I thought it was fascinating that you were looking at my hair, because it got me thinking about a wonderful stereotype. Wife goes out, gets her hair done, comes back, husband doesn't notice. Anything different about me? I don't know. And all of a sudden there's all this pressure of what's changed. And the thing is, it's all about kind of value of my haircut is really, really important. And maybe to the husband, it just isn't, but all of a sudden you're now projecting your thing. Well, this is really important to me. Why aren't you noticing it? And maybe that's just not something they think about. I don't really care about haircuts. I'm not likely to notice yours. Why? I get mine shaved off. So I don't really care. So it got me thinking about sensually healthy marriages.
Mm-hmm.
And relationships.
I actually use the whole haircut in one of the examples in my sensory super system, which helps train people to understand and work out their sensory needs and do the assessment themselves. And one of them is about, we call it underreactivity. It used to be called low registration, poor registration, whatever. And it's for some people, when they're in their visual sense, for example, let's take that one because we're on that whole haircutting thing. For some people, it would really need to be drastic for them to notice. So for me, I've got quite long hair, so it would have to be a short haircut, or I'd have to dye my hair a completely different color for perhaps. I won't take my husband because he's got visual impairments. That wouldn't work for him. But perhaps for a male friend or for someone who has low registration, underreactive in their visual sense, it would need to be significant. It would have to be a dramatic change, a bold color, something really significant for them to notice. That's where our visual underreactive folks, they just go around life not picking up the details, or not picking up that things have changed, or not picking up the clutter in the household, or not picking up the clothes are on the floor, or there's lots that go into that visual underreactivity. But yeah, so you have to make things really significant if you are wanting to speak to someone's visual system. Now, my visual system's quite astute, but interestingly, obviously, my focus is on your hair and not on your clothing. But but we'll focus on different things in the environment too, which does lead us into marriages and things that are important for each spouse.
Yes. In fairness, it was a triple whammy, because I've gone from my usual black t-shirt to a white one. I've also trimmed my beard quite heavily, and because I like a pointy bit, not a sort of a bushy thing going on, and my head's been shaved. So you've had three things quite different. The t-shirt is weird for me. I'm used to seeing myself on the camera with a black shirt. Even I'm keep thinking, who's that bloke? And it's me, because I've got so used over the last 2 years to a black t-shirt for the radio. Now I'm in my magazine t-shirt for this moment, and it's quite a lot going on. But that's three things going on, all of which are quite striking. I noticed the beard first of all. I do more care for my beard than I've ever done on my hair, ever, which is funny. My family think it's funny, so do I. And my t-shirt, it's a different color. So we're going to pick up things. But the problem is, if I'm offended that you didn't notice my t-shirt, now we've got a problem just between two friends. Within the context of a marriage, all of a sudden, well, why didn't you notice I have my haircut? I've got new glasses. I've got a new necklace. I've got new earrings. All of a sudden, those things become major issues. I would like to hope that if a husband suddenly grows a beard, the wife is going to take note, probably because when they have a kiss, it's going to feel it. So one way or another, you're going to know. But if we're not careful, we get so stuck on, which is what I was saying, we get so stuck on something and projecting our value of what's important to us that the other person's like, what did I do? I have no idea.
Yeah, yeah. And it's really interesting now that my husband is of a certain age, and it's probably easier with his visual impairment not to shave. Now, I really like that clean shave because of the sense of touch. He would look great in a beard, but my sense of touch, I love having that softness of skin. So for him to have facial hair, that for our married life for the last 30 years, it's been, if he's asked, which he has, and I've said, I'd much rather you clean shaven. Now that we've got a visual impairment in there, and it's so to be able to shave and to shave well, like parts of anybody who's tried doing anything or brushing your teeth, if you don't have a mirror and you've got to try and find where your teeth are, you've got to look, you're totally reliant on your tactile sense and your proprioceptors so that you know whereabouts your hand is, because you can't see it, because your eyes can't look down into your mouth, and your eyes can't look below your chin. So if you're trying to shave, so it's complicated. Even the most basic of life skills depend on our sensory processing. So it's now shifting to maybe, well, husband, if I'm okay with a beard. I think we could try it if that's better for you. So we all need to go through life tweaking and changing, adapting. We need to change, whether that be through someone helping us tweak and calm down or settle or rethink or think through something that we've never thought through before to change our mindset on something, or physically we can do things differently to help ourselves from a sensory perspective.
I haven't had a beard that long. In fact, you've only ever known me with a beard. Which
Uh-huh.
is fun because every photo up to about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I've never ever had a beard. I hated having, that lunchtime shadow thing. I didn't like that. At one point, I was shaving twice a day. I did get a bit too much and came back off it, but I really liked a smooth face. For me, it's like, well, that's what I'm supposed to do. And it wasn't until I had to consider a change because of blood thinners, which led to the surgeon, the doctor saying, look, don't take blood thinners and shave. Not good. So that's when we had a family chat. I stopped shaving because it just wasn't worth the risk of a trip to A&E, which is the fastest route. That's when I started to have a beard. It was nightmare for a while because I didn't like it. So that was bad. And you got really itchy because it's very, very stiff. It's like a
Tactile
wire brush.
symptoms.
And then it got better.
And then it got better. And then it settled.
Yes.
It is weird to think that, yes, because I've seen like photos of you when you were younger. It's like, yeah, wow, there is another Andy under there. She's like,
I know. Well, see, Stephen D, he only had a beard in the last little while because he thought, I'll give it a go. Hey, and he actually looks really good with it. It's really natural on him. He has it quite short all over, but he looks great in it. But most people wouldn't know him without a beard. And it's funny how we assign something to somebody. Tom Selleck famously had a massive mustache, shaved it off, grew it again, shaved it off, depending on what he was doing. And it was weird because we associate things. There's a sort of like a soap thing we got into as a family. And the thing is, one of the people in it runs a diner and he's always got a baseball cap pointing backwards all the time. That's all you ever see him. And every so often, his hat is off and he looks weird, which is unfair because he's not weird. He's just the same guy without a hat.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like now, almost when I come on Zoom as well. I mean, I love having my hair down, but I also like having it tied back. And I thought, but the look is so completely different. And I thought, until people really get to know me, then I'm probably safer to stay with like my hair down so that they recognize who I am. But then, yeah, it's quite a shock when you have your hair tied back and if people aren't used to me doing it. I suppose if I'd have always been having my hair up or having it down, then people might be familiar with the different looks that there are. But I've been consistently like this for some time, so it's
I've just remembered my wife was in a job working shifts, and everybody who knew her, she always had her hair very much tied back, very, 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 because it was very, very, had to be very careful. So anyway, she had her hair tied back, and then there was a bar, and I went with her one night to the bar, and all the people from work were there, and they were saying, "Who's that blonde over there?" And they were talking to her, not knowing who she was. That's how much difference. A hair being up or down because Joe had, lovely long blonde hair. Normally it was very much cropped, so very, very short hair. And yeah, they didn't know who she was. It was hilarious.
Yeah, I say, oh, who are you out with, Andy? It was like,
Yeah,
oh no, I am pure, like pure media, pure man.
absolutely.
This is like, yeah, only one woman for me. Thank you very much.
Yes, yes. I was thinking about a century healthy marriage, happy marriage specifically, because the hair thing is such a classic thing we see in movies and films and sitcoms. And I've never had that issue because Joe's not one of those wives, which I'm very happy about. So she just has a haircut when it gets bad, and that's it. Great. So it's not an issue for us, but I know for some people it is because all of a sudden it changes. And it could be as simple as you not liking the fact your husband's got a beard, don't like that. That's quite normal and fine. But actually, the other, conversely, it could be that you don't like your wife with short hair, or you don't like the longer hair, or because it gets, in the way. Or so there's all these things, and they affect us negatively and positively. But having a healthy, sensory, happy marriage is exactly what you did, which was you chatted with your husband, and he said, "I'll shave." Now something's changed, and you have to reassess that,
Mm.
but we find ways of working. But if you've got someone with sensory healthy over sensitivity or under sensitivity, understanding that is the difference of having an argument and making a cup of tea and a chat instead.
Absolutely. And big time in my world, the difference between a marriage staying together and a marriage falling apart. It is that significant. Yeah, it's just powerful. And the difference between having two parents working together. Okay, we've got the marriage itself, and then you've got your marriage with the children, and that's why it's also really crucial that they understand the children, so we can get husband, wife working together to bring up the child rather than the child forcing the parents apart. I mean, we have to work at parenting in a marriage that way anyway, but even more so to really understand those sensory needs from the children and then from the individuals, whether you have children or not. To have a really strong marriage, you've got to really understand each other and talk and not be ashamed or afraid to talk about those little things that do bother you, because those things that bother you, they will mount up and they will lead to something, whether it be you turning it inside internally and you getting sick through it all, or it building up into bitterness, resentment, all of the stuff that eventually comes out and can destroy a marriage if things aren't dealt with. So that honesty, that the biggest thing is just so many things. If I see it on social media, I just think, why don't you just be honest? It just surprises me how fearful people are of being honest. And the marriage place in particular should be the safest place to share who you are and how you are and the little quirks, because that's what sensory processing often raises, because people don't understand it. You think, oh, they're a bit quirky, or, they don't want to be touched, or they can only touch them for a little bit, or they only like deep touch. If you're going to give them a hug, you have to make it a really deep hug, or they give you too strong a squeeze and you don't want too strong a squeeze. And it's those little quirks about who you are and about how they are. They are the most important things to talk about, because you don't think they're significant enough to talk about, but it's those are the things that can eventually lead to to destruction, rather than just building you up and building up together.
I was thinking about how, like my kids hug me differently. They knock doors differently. They knock on my door at night or whatever. We know if it's Peter, if we can barely hear anything, but we know there's some sort of noise. That's Peter, and we know that other people, I'm not going to say who, and knock a little bit more robustly, shall we say? That's just knocking a door. But
Mm.
you spin that off between a husband and a wife, and all of a sudden it's much more. I was just thinking about how also God made us in his image. That's what the Bible says. So if we're all made in his image, and I've never met another me, some would say that's a good thing. I think maybe there's just enough room for one of me, but we're all different. But those differences are what actually unite us if we choose to allow them within the pressure cooker of a marriage. Let's put it that way. If we don't deal with those quirks, there's a problem. But actually, if we embrace them, that's great. We've talked about bedtimes before, haven't we? That my wife likes to get up early. I don't. I like to stay up late. She doesn't. We're quite different. Well, over time, you find a way of balancing that out that works for you. Yes, there's an element of compromise, but you know what it means? That in the morning she can get up and she'll do stuff and bring me a coffee. That's great. But when she goes to bed at night, I can finish off stuff that she's too tired to do. Well, either you work against each other or with each other. And in a marriage, if you're on the same page, that kind of helps.
Yeah, yeah, and the time that we've had because of pain, and we've talked about pain, and because the pain that we've had months. My husband's been suffering for months, and we're on the turn, and so we have been we have been sleeping separately because I need to sleep to function, and he has to do what he needs to do, and he needs to feel free to do what he needs to do, so he knows that he's not disturbing me. And the painkillers, and we're finding a way through the pain, and it's just so lovely. We're just back in the same room again, and it brings back just that sense of, oh, this is really nice. It is really those little things about marriage. So if it's a bit rough for a while, just go with it. Be gentle with each other. Be as kind as you possibly can be, because it's not much fun for either of you or any of you or in the whole household. It may not be much fun, but seasons pass. Seasons pass. Eventually, at some point, it will pass. It's just hold on in there. If you are going through a really tough time at the minute, hold on in there. That does not mean it's terminal. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of your marriage. You just got to hang on in there and just hold that space until something changes, because it always does change. And keep pressing in for the good, and try and be as gentle and kind with each other, so you don't do any more damage than the situation is causing. So that when you are able to finally, start working together again, or sleeping in the same room together, or start working on something together, start rebuilding, then you've got better grounds to start rebuilding.
I know I've said this before, but it seems relevant. There was a time in our life when turns out Jo was actually pregnant with Peter, but she was really exhausted. We didn't know what was wrong. We thought she was actually quite sick, but it was just the way that the pregnancy began. It's one of those things. But she was really exhausted. I was driving trucks for 60, 70 hours a week. I was absolutely shattered. And just the fact we were tired was enough for us to argue and think, what are we arguing about? We had no clue, literally. And we would argue here and argue there. And it was just tiredness. And we actually finally identified it and said, we're going to bed. We're going to go and get some sleep. We'll deal with this tomorrow. Because you know what? There's no point in trying to flog a dead horse. And sometimes, yes, the Bible says, don't let the sun go down on your anger. But you know what? There's other wisdom to apply, which is sometimes when you're that tired, go and get some sleep, agree on it, and have a chat tomorrow. And that's something that we learned through that time. Thankfully, and I do thank God for this, we've not had that level of tiredness ever since. That
Right.
was a particular season of incredible, all sorts of pressures everywhere. And it was horrible because we kept on rowing and arguing and like, what? Why are we doing this? We don't feel angry towards each other. We haven't upset each other. And it's just tiredness. That's a season that was probably 3, 5 months or so of just exhaustion.
Yeah, yeah, and that's it. And it's hard when you don't know when the season's going to end. So for us, we're actually coming up to 7 months now of pain,
Wow.
and but it's just like, oh, to finally think, oh, this might be only might, I mean, but we have glimmers of hope, and we've had some lovely nights, and it's like, oh, just it was worth it. And we will, when we know that it's been dealt with, we know that we have to do a marriage reset. We've said it already, because it's a hard season, but that is life, and that is what 50, 60, even we're both about 30 years married at the minute, so it's like 30, 40, 50, 60, or even if you're at 10 years, or actually if you've just had a baby and you're in those new years, you've just got to hold on and ride those waves of the ups and downs of life, because the rewards are so much more than what you get out of marriage. It is a powerful testimony of what marriage is when you can work through that. Oh, that's another subject to come on to, but yeah, I was thinking about that this week, I suppose, because it's very fresh in my mind of just how much we have had to just hold on to God, actually, hold on to the covenant, hold on to the marriage for what the marriage is over this season. Because I personally, I was, yeah, I'm not getting anything out of the marriage, but that's not what it's about. It is not what it is about.
No, but there are other seasons when you did,
Mm.
you hope, there are seasons when you will. And I think it's the same. A few people are quite shocked that Jo and I work together full time every single day. What, don't you row? No, because we love being with each other. So therefore, it's not a stress. For some people, I understand that. But my whole family, we work and live full time together in one house. We all work full time. We're doing like 50, 60 hours a week on pure media. And we love it. And we love being with one another. That's not for everybody. I know that, but it is something that we love. And actually, it's not a stress.
No.
It's a joy that we can. And when sometimes I just sort of follow Jo around the house because I know where she's going to be, because she's only going to be, 2 rooms away, and it's quite nice. And she brings me cups of tea and we do bits and pieces, and it's quite nice. We have a coffee outside in the garden sometimes if we can, although the weather's turned and it's freezing. But you find things that work for you in the seasons that you're in, and there will be difficult and hard seasons. But from a Century Healthy perspective, and the occupational therapist bit, which I know generally we think of getting back into gainful employment, but into gainful life, actually.
Gainful life, yeah, absolutely. The job of living.
Yeah. So don't give up of it stuff. But think about Century Healthy stuff. And just if somebody has not noticed something that you're really proud of, don't assume they're ignorant. Just ask them, oh, did you notice I had my hair done? Did you notice I got a new t-shirt on? Ask the question before you make a pointed, barbed comment that you'll regret later.
Yes, amen.
Right, thank you. Century Healthy, happy marriages.
Oh, there's so much more we could go into that, but we will, because we kind of we flow and we go into that, and then we delve on it, and we could delve deeper on other occasions, and then come back to it, and that's how it goes, and we love that bit, don't we?
It's really, I love these. Honestly, they're great. We are 2 years, I think, nearly 80 of these chats we've had.
Oh, that's
It's the 80th or the 79th. It's 79th or 80th. This one.
Oh,
we do keep records.
Oh yeah, well, I've completely lost track. So bless you for I thank you.
Nathan tells me I don't keep records. He does. It's very good. Right. If you want to connect with Anne and you've got some Century Healthy issues in your marriage, for example, perhaps, or in your children, in your grandparents, connect with Anne Laure Jackson. You can go to our website. It's the easiest way of getting hold of her. www.pure247radio.org, pure247radio.org/ALJ. And you can connect with Anne Laure Jackson of Sante on Jersey and more.
Thank you.
Did you know that at Pure 24/7 Radio, we also offer advertising? Advertising really does work. Let's face it, you're listening to this. Want to know more? Well, just go to pure247radio.org, pure247radio.org/advertising, and you can get everything you want and more there.